Hello and good morning and welcome to Tell Me More. This is a new live and interactive series here on 2 Degrees. I'm Tom Idle. I'm the editor of 2 Degrees and I'm delighted that you've joined us and thank you for tuning in and being there. So I'm currently sat inside the London showroom of Interface here in London and I'm delighted to be joined by Ramon Arratia, the company's sustainability director for EMEA. Good morning, Ramon.
Good morning, Tom.
And thank you for inviting us into the showroom and spending some time with us this morning. So we're going to get stuck into our interview shortly. Before we do that, I want to make sure that you, our lovely audience listening in there, get a chance to ask Ramon as many questions as you can of your own. You can do this at any time in the next hour online by using the Q&A box, which is on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So just type in your question, hit the send button, and we'll try and put as many of your questions to Ramon in the next hour as we can. Great. Okay, so Ramon, let's talk Interface. It's a business that's been written about many times before for good reason, particularly in sustainable business circles. But if there's anyone out there that doesn't know Interface, can you just briefly tell us what Interface is, and more importantly, why it has become known as this innovative, sustainable business?
We are the company who invented this concept of carpet tiles, cutting the carpet into squares so it can be easily installed and easily deinstalled. But many people know us for what Ray Anderson did in 1994, which is to acknowledge that the industry was completely unsustainable. We were based everything on oil, and he challenged the rest of the business to become the first sustainable company. And at that time, not many companies were talking about sustainability.
No.
So that's why in 1994, Mission Zero was born.
Mm. And Ray Anderson, as you say, completely central to that. He had this moment of epiphany, didn't he, back in the sort of mid-90s. So did you know Ray well? Did you work with him? I know he sadly passed away in 2011, but did you work with him closely?
Yes, I've worked with him for 4 years since I joined Interface, and I had the opportunity to meet him several times. And he was such a charismatic person and such a visionary. Mm. And I think part of the success of Mission Zero was that it's not only that he had the vision, but he had the charisma, and he was such a great storyteller that it inspired everybody in the business one by one, as he liked to say. You have to convince one mind at a time. And he had also the patience to do that work, one mind at a time, which is incredible. And
presumably he made your job a lot easier than it would have been if you didn't have that sort of leadership.
Absolutely. In Interface, you don't have any time wasted convincing people. This is a given. Mission Zero is sacrosanct in our company. So we get on with delivering sustainability, which is already quite difficult on itself.
Sure, yeah. And Ray's written a couple of books which I highly recommended as reads that really give you a sort of an inside track into how we set up Interface. You yourself have just written a book. This is a book that's called Full Product Transparency, Cutting the Fluff Out of Sustainability. Out now if anybody wants to pick up a copy. But this is your call for companies to get serious about not only looking at their own sort of operational impacts, but to look at product impacts, isn't it? What prompted you to write this book, and what do you want to achieve with it?
I've been a sustainability corporate person for the last 13 years, and I've been very frustrated at the pace and the level of the discussions that we're having. And I see today a beauty contest among companies. Just it's a contest to see who has the best label, the best certificate. It's a company between marketing teams and agencies to have the best marketing claim. It's about the fastest, the biggest. It's about coming up with things such as organic. And I thought that we are in a moment where analyzing the impacts of products, the product lenses rather than the corporate lenses, offers a much more true representation of the environmental impacts. And there are already techniques like lifecycle assessment, very, very widely used, that would give you that lens at product level. Most of the impacts today are not in the companies themselves. Companies assemble products. Companies have a huge supply chain. And the impacts of the actual products are from the raw materials extraction to the production of the actual raw material parts, and then the amount of miles that these parts travel and the amount of chemical reactions that you need is huge.
Sure.
But companies usually, they are confined to their premises. And I think we need to have a call for companies to deal with the whole value chain.
Sure. So we'll come on and look into your take on product sustainability a little more. But this is about the fluff that you refer to being the sort of generic CSR agenda, isn't it?
Yes.
What's the danger if we continue on this track and rather than adopting what you're calling for?
Well, we're seeing that every day. So let's say let's look at different parts. I'll give you an example on supply chain. What is happening today with supply chain? We just tick boxes. We have the 700 questions questionnaire for suppliers, where we're bothering them every time to fill the same questionnaire with the stupid questions like do you have ISO 14001? Wow, such a transformative thing. Or do you comply, or do you sign the global compact? Or what is your environmental policy? Yep. We need to move towards performance, and we need to ask things such as kilograms of CO2, such as much more product-related performance. So that's an example on supply chain. But if you look at the fluff on marketing, you go today to a supermarket, and one brand will tell you, buy my product, it's 100% organic, and the other one, buy my product, is 100% recyclable. Yeah. And the other one would say, buy my product, it has X label, and it all sounds sane. But at the end of the day, this is about the marketing, because it's about the biggest, the fastest, it's about always marketing in absolute claim. But sustainability is much more complex than that. Yeah. And the best product might be one that is not either recycled or organic, or carbon neutral, is something which is designed in a way to last longer, and until you do a proper life cycle assessment, you won't know. So there is a disconnect between the actual true impacts and all this fluff. And then you look at the amount of awards that are today. Everybody can win an award. Yeah. And you have awards for the best corporate report, the best assurance statement in a corporate report. You have awards for the best marketing campaign on sustainability. I think we are making awards for gimmicks, just to maintain an industry that we have created ourselves. Sure. And we really need to move towards the true impacts of products.
So when did you start this journey about looking at products? What, in a practical sense, what did you do to start this and kick this off?
We've been looking at LCA for a long time. And then around 3 years ago, we did a shift of not only looking at Mission Zero in the sense of looking just as the company, but we start looking at, okay, we know that 70% of our impact, of the impact of a carpet tile is in the raw materials. Therefore, we cannot just forget about that. And most of the impact is in the yarn. So that it was obvious. I mean, it's a very hard pill to swallow for a carpet manufacturer, that the yarn, which is what makes carpet a carpet, is where it has the biggest impact. So for us, facing that elephant in the room was big. And but this is the true moment when a company faces this elephant in the room, then you are into something. Yeah. And urge every sector to really look for that elephant in the room, because if you cannot manage that, then your sustainability strategy is not really embedded into the core impact. Yeah. So therefore, what we did is to look at redesigning of our products so that they can have less impact.
Sure. So is your message to, I mean, who are you aiming your message at? Is it other sustainability directors? Is it for CEOs to really sort of look at this? This is a big call of change that you're asking for here.
We have messages for different people, because this idea of full transparency comes in many ways. So for example, my message to a CEO is, when 71% of CEOs, according to a survey made by Accenture a while ago, said that they think that sustainability is embedded in their DNA of the company, but they don't get it. And how many CEOs say that crap of sustainability is embedded in our DNA? Well, it is not embedded into your DNA if it is not embedded into the product, which is the most core thing a company has. So that would be my message for a CEO.
So who can we look at? We can look at interface. I think in your book you reference Unilever, who have started looking at their product impacts on a per consumer use basis. Any other examples you can point us towards?
The whole thing that Patagonia is doing around the product transparency, about where things come, about how the products are put together. There is a huge amount. The chemical industry has been quite good in dealing with LCA, because obviously that's a competitive advantage. If you have a molecule with less environmental impact, then you have a competitive advantage. So sometimes the innovation comes from non-likely places. Like Apple, for example, now they're talking about product sustainability when they even didn't talk about corporate sustainability, and they have been heavily criticized. But they are starting to directly to talk about product sustainability. And for beginners, I would say that you start straight away with product rather than with corporate, because product is something that then you talk the same message to the suppliers and you talk the same message to your customers. Yeah.
You also reference this mismatch, this management mismatch, where you say that 80% of management resources are sort of going into tackling 20% of the impacts. So you've got this crazy situation where most of the activity in sustainable business circles is designed to tackle fairly minor issues. I mean, is that why we haven't got more examples of companies looking at, we mentioned a handful. Is that why we've not got the scale here?
This was a quote from Jim Fava from 5 Wins. He said, 80% of the focus today and all the strategies is about corporate management. It's about energy efficiency, it's about carbon management, but at corporate level. Well, the actual impacts are occurring in the supply chain or in the consumer use. And I think it's because that focus of the whole thing around corporate sustainability and trying to make companies get us out of this mess, and that focus on corporate. But at the end of the day, I think, yes, companies are the key ones that they will get us out of this mess with innovation, but instead of reporting and managing the impacts of the companies themselves, they need to do the same for the impacts of their product. So we need to shift that paradigm from corporate to product. It's just that we have been trapped in the corporate paradigm, and this also was a paradigm that suited very well the industry. Because if you are a consultant, you can sell to corporates. If you are an organization, you can sell a membership to a corporate. So the whole corporate focus was very good for consultants, and they want to make money for corporates.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a role for policy, for legislation? I know you're a big fan of the metric that's used in the car industry, the CO2 per kilometre, the magic metric you call it. Is that something that is replicable, that can be used in other industries? Yeah,
when you look at the success of the European car industry, one of the most heavily regulated industry, then you understand that the myth of regulation is bad is a myth. And if the regulation is done in a good way, if policy is done in a good way, it can enable a lot of innovation. I'll give you an example of what the EU said. The biggest impact of a car is the consumer use. So the magic metric is grams of CO2 per kilometer. The first thing you do is to have a target at European level of 95 grams of CO2 per kilometer by 2020. Yeah. So all the companies have to arrive there as an average, or they face a penalty. That's the first thing you do. The second thing is transparency, so that in every car advertisement, in every car dealers, the magic metric is shown to consumers. That creates awareness. So my mom today knows that 90 grams is quite good and 200 is quite bad.
Yeah, right.
But still people won't choose cars related to this magic metric until then you start tinkering with taxes. Yeah. And that enables, for example, in the UK, you have you pay more road tax when your car has more CO2. You also have company car tax related to CO2, and in London, cars with less than 99, they don't pay congestion charge. In Salford, you get free parking, and all that has created a huge amount of innovation in the last 5 years. Now, why cannot we do this? Let's say for buildings. Why stamp duty couldn't be linked to the energy efficiency of a house? of course, this is something that will give the heebie-jeebies to the treasury, but this is something that can be done easily. Why not local council tax can be linked to the energy efficiency rating of the house? That would force people to refurbish before they rent or before they sell. And I think there are many industries that could learn from this approach of the magic metric and really having policy level focus on product rather than policy level just dealing with political issues.
And you presumably have asked those questions of the powers that be, and what responses do you get? So when you say, can we not link stamp duty to efficiency, I mean, what sort of responses do you get?
Taxes related to product are, they have been a no-go area because, the aim, for example, of VAT is to make things very simple.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to tinker with VAT. Then also you can run into problems, with tariffs and with other problems with other countries. But there are ways around that, and we have seen in the car industry how we have been able to do it. Why not doing it in other areas?
Yeah, and if you were to have something similar to the magic metric for buildings, what impact would that have on a company like Interface?
Just for our, for example, we would be, let's say, more incentivized to do refurbishment in our buildings, but our customers, they would be much more incentivized to do refurbishment on their own buildings.
Sure.
And then if you link that also to embodied carbon, they would have a incentive to buy carpet with less carbon. I'll give you an example. Today, there is carpet in the market with 25 grams of CO2 embodied per square meter. We have carpet with 5 kilograms of CO2 per square meter. Now, is there any incentive that helps those customers? There is nothing. And until you get that sort of policy, you don't get customers really going in mass for those low carbon products.
Do you feel frustrated at where we are today?
I feel slightly frustrated because I think I would like a much more faster change, but I see people are getting it. I see companies are getting it and switching to product thinking. I see the Commissioner Potocnik is really getting it, which for me has been an incredible surprise. And I think people are already tired of all this fluff in the market, and we want to move towards true sustainability.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you've tuned in late, 2 Degrees members, then you can, of course, submit your own questions to Ramon. So I advise you to do that. Use the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your screen and type in your question or your message, and we'll try and get through as many as we can in our time with Ramon. Again, in your book, Ramon, and also in your Cut the Fluff blog as well, you're quite vocal in your kind of opposition to the plethora of environmental labels that are out there. And I wonder whether, if we go down this route of product sustainability tracking, I wonder whether labels are actually helpful. Aren't they helpful in trying to convince people how green something is?
Imagine that you go back home and you're suspecting that your wife is cheating you, and then she comes with 2 things. One is a certificate from her lawyer saying that she's not cheating you. That's like a label. Or would you trust rather having the full transparency of all the mobile phone texts and bills, and what would give you more reassurance? So I think that's the problem with labels. What we need is standards for product transparency, so that we know what are the raw materials, we know the actual impacts, we know what is happening. And I'm not going to even raise the issue of horse meat, but that's the type of we need transparency at that level rather than just labels and certifications.
Okay. Are there any labels out there that are doing a good job? I mean, I think about the sort of labelling around refrigeration in Europe.
One, there is a label based on the full transparency. So first of all, you disclose absolute metrics, and then you categorize products according to that metric. So, for example, you look at the energy efficiency of an appliance, and then if it is 90, you get A. If it is 180, you have C.
Yeah.
That is good, because that helps understand in a very graphic way whether one thing is better than the other.
Sure.
I agree on this type of labels, and I think they have been extremely successful in getting all the appliances to A. Now, what I don't understand is that then the new European labeling scheme, instead of resetting all the values, they say, okay, we're going to create A+, A++, A+++++. That does, I think, defeats its object.
Sure. Let's rewind slightly to look at some practical things that you've done to look at and focus on product transparency. What sort of tools are you using? Any software that you can point people towards that have really helped you?
Well, there are LCA softwares like Gabi or Sigma Pro. These are the typical softwares that you can use. So, and you can get you can do it in-house, hiring someone who really understands about LCA, or you can go for a consultant who helps you with the first LCA, and then you start getting more understanding.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, is about having the willingness to explore where your true impacts are, and be ready to face those elephants in the room that might be uncomfortable for a company or a sector to address.
I'm sure it will be. So what's your advice? What's your advice to somebody to challenge those elephants in the room?
First, if you understand what is the true impact, then try to find how your company could gain a competitive advantage. And it's about product or service redesign. It's about if you redesign, if you change raw materials of your product, if you come up with an innovation, would you have a competitive advantage versus other companies?
Yeah.
Could you cannibalize other sectors so that you can expand to adjacent markets? And it's really about the strategic and about growth and about how you can develop a product that is genuinely more sustainable, and then you can grow through that.
Yeah, and my question actually was coming on to that was how you've applied your learnings about product transparency and really gained the edge in your own market. So what's the situation in the carpet market?
So we have, in average, a typical product from 1996 would have around 20 kilograms of CO2 per square meter. Typical product today around 10. Now, our main impact is the nylon yarn. And when you face that elephant in the room, it's very obvious what you can do. You can either make carpet with less yarn, you can recycle the yarn, or you can invent a new yarn.
Yeah.
And this is our main strategy today. We have a product with 340 grams of yarn, which is 50% less yarn than other carpet, and this is a high growth product. And it's also helping us to expand into adjacent markets like Spain, where people don't like carpet in my country, but we are selling this type of products. Recycling yarn, the inventors of nylon told us in the 90s that nylon recycling was impossible. In the next weeks, we're going to launch some products, all of them most of them with 100% recycled nylon. And so we will have 368 colorways with 100% recycled nylon.
Yeah.
And dispelling this myth that nylon recycling was impossible. And then it's about inventing. Can we come up with something rather than nylon? And something we just launched last year is a nylon called nylon 610, which is different than from nylon 6 or nylon 66. And the nylon 610 is 63% bio-based. And it comes from a crop called castor oil. And castor oil is a crop that doesn't compete with food. Right. It's a crop that needs little water once every 20-25 days. It's a crop also that grows in marginal land, and it's mainly grown in Gujarat mainly, a little bit in Karnataka, also in Brazil. And it gives farmers 10 times its input cost. So there is a huge socioeconomic benefit. So that's the last thing, is around inventing new types of raw materials.
Sure, sure. And are you blowing your competition out of the water? I mean, who's the nearest competitor?
Oh, we have many competitors. I mean, I think we have around 30-35% global market share. So
right.
I don't know where is the nearest competitors, but I think would be in the tens.
Sure, sure. There's a few questions that are coming through on our Twitter feed using the Ask Ramon hashtag. Tracy Rawling Church asks you, Ramon, should more be done to encourage resource-efficient product design? And if so, what?
I think Tracy is absolutely right, and you can do it in different ways. One is at product standard level, so regulating the non-efficient products, and we have seen that in certain light bulbs, like a regulation. If there is a cut where you don't come to our market with these low efficiency products. Then can be about tax incentives for the good products and more taxes for the bad, worse products. It can be about creating an artificial demand by coming up with the standards, and we have seen through DGMB, LEED, BREEAM in the UK, how these voluntary standards can drive demand and make buildings even more valuable through these standards.
Yep.
My honest response is I prefer, hard, old school legislation if it is well done. But these voluntary schemes also can help. So I think resource efficiency is tremendous. And then the other thing, obviously, what Tracy's company is doing, Kyocera, which is around renting equipment rather than selling. And it doesn't work for all products, but I think this is another way. We need to look at how the economy can switch from products to services. How can we provide more maintenance? How can we provide more health advice? How can we promote more culture into people and then buying less products and gadgets as a whole society?
Yeah, sure. So your overall broad strategy, this Mission Zero, so this is about having zero negative impact on the environment by the end of the decade. How realistic is that? I mean, where are you on the journey, and will you get there?
So we have reduced our water consumption by 71%. I reckon in Europe, by the end of this year, we will be zero factory water. So we will have we will use some water in the toilets of this showroom, for example, but nothing really to manufacture carpet. We are almost zero waste to landfill in Europe. We are 44% of our global raw materials are already recycled or bio-based, so there is still a way to go there. But there are some breakthroughs that if we make them, it can get us to the 80s reasonably quickly. So we will get to 100. 100 is obviously it will be impossible to get to absolute 100 now. If we get to 98, if we get to 97, I would think that that's quite a good
it's impressive.
thing.
Yeah. We have another question come in from our audience. Don't know who's actually asking this, but they say, how do you find out about new materials to use for your products, i.e. castor oil?
Yeah, so basically we have an innovation team, and this is a very unusual innovation team. It's led by Nigel Stansfield, who is a textile engineer, and he's the global CEO. And it's a very small team. I think there are like 3-4 people.
Right.
Now, they don't have 100 PhDs working for them.
No.
They work with universities, with technology scouts, with a range of people that can collaborate across our supply chain, and then looking at this open innovation, you can achieve much more, because not every smart person in the planet can work for you. Most of those people are likely that are outside your company. So this idea of open innovation and accessing what is already out there, I think, can give us much more.
But have you built a name for yourself as the place that if you are a top engineer, I want to work for Interface? Are you at that stage?
I think we have put our name on the sustainability arena. So many sustainability people would like to work for interface, and I think that if someone is doing research on yarns and on the textile environment, they would just go definitely for interface.
Sure.
Now, in other areas, I don't think we are at that level, and I think for obviously for some people, carpet is not a very sexy sector, but working for a company with mission zero, it is. So this whole ambition, it's really turning on people. And I'll give you an example. I came from Vodafone. We were doing incredible things and social economic impacts on Africa. And I went to work for a carpet company. Why? Because it has this mission zero. Because you don't wake up in the morning and get excited about the 4.3 efficiency target or the 6% increase in sales. That really doesn't turn you on. You want to work and live for a higher purpose. And if through your job you can release that higher purpose and get realized about that higher purpose, then it's very inspiring.
At what point do you say, I've done as much as I can do at Interface and move on? Personally, I'm always fascinated by the sustainability profession. Does there come a point where you think, actually, I've done enough here, I've set some good processes, I've set the direction, and I could move on now?
Yeah, that's an eternal question that happens to me. How can I be already 5 years on this job and I still get excited? And I think it's the hooking thing of Mission Zero. You really want to deliver. You really want to be part of this team that was an example so that other companies could do the same. If it can works for a carpet, petrochemical company, it could work for others. So I think it's a little bit on that.
Yeah, we've got another question come through on our Twitter feed. This is from Carbon Credentials. How important is culture change as part of the company's overall strategy?
Absolutely spot on, this question. I mean, let's face it. You need to change a lot of things. And you need a culture where people are allowed to take risks. People have this permission to explore new avenues. Yeah. In many occasions, when you explore new avenues, 9 out of 10 times you fail. And in many companies, most of companies, and I would say almost all of the public sector, wouldn't have this culture where if you fail, you get rewarded, just for trying. And I think this is absolutely critical. Getting this culture where the risk takers, the people who try mad things, are encouraged is absolutely fundamental.
Sure, and one of the problems we're told time and time again on 2 Degrees, and our content proves that, and discussion starts prove that, engagement is a big issue. So engaging staff, engaging suppliers, engaging the board. I wonder whether full product transparency that you describe is the answer to these problems, because you're bringing different parts of the business together to whether it be product design, marketing, you're bringing them together. Is that why this is such a powerful thing?
I think that's right. Full transparency and the whole thing around the product thinking aligns the whole company, because products are the lifeblood of companies, and product development, product research, product sales, it's all about selling more product and coming up with better products. So the first thing that when you take this journey of full product transparency happens is that your product designers and your product managers, they reinvent the products and they make innovations. Then that transfers to the supply chain. So the supply chain people tell your suppliers, come up with really product innovations that will give us a competitive advantage because they're more sustainable. Yeah. And then the marketing guys, they have a ready-made angle, so they don't have to invent any claims because the product. Yeah. And then the salespeople then also can sell based on a true sustainability. So everybody's talking about the same. Sure. And I think that alignment is very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. The another question that's come through, which is interesting actually, is from DAPCO in Chile. It says, Ramon, how critical do you think EPD, which is Environmental Product Declaration, is in achieving product transparency? What other useful tools do you envision?
I think we need, the current EPDs are useful. I think for me is the best of the tools we have now. There is a long way to improve EPDs. I think EPDs should disclose much more information. In our EPDs, that are industry standard, and it was because the EU really went for a pan-European regulation for building sector, so there is a norm for all the building products. But I think much more transparency can be achieved, much more standardization, much more, you need really good product category rules that they take a lot of research, and you have, the sector has to collaborate on those. And I think, for me, EPDs is the way forward, and anything that can add to much more transparency, better standards around EPD will accelerate this pace.
Sure. What about carpet tile reuse? We got a question here from John Molyneux, who says carpet tile reuse, can it go to scale? What's the situation in that kind of the recycling infrastructure there?
John is one of our partners that we use in the UK, spruce, carpet. And what we're doing with several partners in the UK is when we have a project, so let's go, for example, a typical project is a bank in the city, they are refurbishing their offices, they call us, they want to do something good with the carpet tiles, and we have several options. Obviously, they want to avoid to landfill, waste to energies like burning the tiles for achieving energy, that for me is a waste of energy because, and so you can do several things. One is recycling, and the problem with recycling is recycling a mobile phone into cement is not something clever. It's downcycling, putting something of high value into something of low value. So the true recycling is just like for like, separating each of the components and recycling each of the component into the same thing, and then. Even a better thing can be reuse if you ensure that the carpet is going to have, a decent amount of time, extended life. And this is what we do with partners such as Spruce Carpet. So basically, they employ people that might have any, social disadvantage, and they clean the carpet and then they resell that carpet so that the carpet has a new life. And that's something we do in France, there's something we do in Germany, something we do in the UK. And,
so there's not really an infrastructure issue here. This is not a barrier. There's no barriers in this. This is fairly well established now, is it?
It is well established. Still, I think we are doing, with reuse. If you look at the figures, we will be doing maybe, 5-10% maximum. I don't know exactly the figures of our volume. Now, there are barriers, and the barriers is, in many countries, the price of landfill is so low that customers don't have any incentive to pay for this reuse service. And until we get the high price of landfill, or directly a ban on the landfill of carpet, and I'm advocating for a ban on the landfill of carpet across Europe. Then people will have more incentive to either give us the product back for recycling or for reuse.
And how far away is that? Is that a reality?
It's a reality in more developed countries like Denmark or Holland or Germany. In the UK, you guys have the landfill escalator, which I think is going to be for next year £80 per ton, but still I don't think it's that progressive as other European countries. And obviously in developing countries like Spain, in some autonomous regions, you can throw almost carpet for free, which is a disgrace. So it really depends on which country.
Sure. A question here just to go back a step to when we were talking about landfill. Someone says, how are you advocating for a ban on landfill for carpet? And what is Interface doing on that? Yeah,
we launched 3-4 years ago a campaign called the War on Waste. And we were advocating for a complete ban on the landfill of carpet. We are doing that for several reasons. One is we believe that our carpet is not waste and we can recycle. Second, we have the technology to separate the nylon and the backing of the carpet and recycle nylon to nylon, backing to backing. And therefore that gives us a competitive advantage. Also, our products are modular, can be easy to install, easy to deinstall. So if you have a genuinely competitive advantage, you have to make the most of it.
Sure.
And there is no incentive. The problem is there is no incentive in many countries in Europe for our customers to give the carpet back. So The only way is if you can get a some kind of regulation there. It is regulation for cars. There is regulation for electronic equipment. Not very good regulation, but there is one. Why cannot have some ban on the landfill of certain things? And in the last waste review, a landfill of textiles or landfill of carpet, it was considered. It was considered to be considered. You know how the government draft these things.
Yeah, yeah. You touched on it earlier when you said that you can't believe you've been at Interface for 5 years. So you joined in 2008. What are you most proud of achieving in your time at Interface?
I think it's getting products such as Biosphere in the market. Biosphere is a product with a little bit more than half of the footprint of a normal product. We put several innovations there, and then it gave the energy for all the company to engage, from the product designers to the supply chain, to marketing really excited about launching this product. All the salespeople. It has been one of the highest growth products. The highest growth products. For several years for Interface, showing that there is dispelling this myth that some consumers don't. That customers don't care about sustainability. Maybe most of the consumers don't care, but in the B2B market, that is different. And people, you have a product at a good price with more sustainability credentials, then people appreciate that. Yeah,
and you say that marketing was crucial in that. We've got a question here related to that. Asking, what's your number one top tip for communicating sustainability effectively to get stakeholder buy-in?
Talk about the true credentials of your product and find where is your magic metric and communicate about your magic metric. And it might sound counterintuitive, which is commoditizing the whole romanticized story about sustainability and just getting marketing into a very boring, number-driven story, but at the end of the day, linking performance to the messages for me is the main thing.
And by concentrating on products, it's an easy way of avoiding the whole greenwash and the over-marketing of this space, which we see time and time again. How has the landscape changed since you've been in this profession? 13 years now. So you were at Vodafone. How have things changed in that time?
I'm relatively young, so it's only 13 years. I started in Ericsson, and I started with ISO 14001. Now, many things have changed. Before it was just getting a certificate. It was just about some paperwork, and that was just easy sustainability, box ticking sustainability. Then. Still, I'm amazed of how many companies ask their suppliers to have an ISO 14001 certificate, and they don't mention anything about the products that they're actually buying. Now, then we move towards the whole thing around triple bottom line and about reporting, and somehow reporting was a way for the sustainability movement to get companies engaged into reporting the actual, the sum of the environmental and social impacts. So by having a physical thing like doing a report, it was a process for companies to at least understand what the issues were, and having some sort of transparency of what were the issues. Now the problem is obviously you can choose what you report on. You can select the case studies that fits you and they look good. So it was a very somehow distorted story of the true story. Then at the same time, parallel, the labels came in, and the thought that the consumer will solve this. So you need just a very quick message for consumers, and then consumers would vote paying more for the product. Now the problem is, many consumers are cynical, and why would you self-flagellate yourself when the other people are getting the stuff for free? And I think then now we are moving more on to embedded sustainability. Then it became the whole thing around stakeholder engagement and understanding, stakeholders as well. And now is more about embedding sustainability. And I think the the next step for me of embedding sustainability is embedding sustainability in the product.
Sure, sure. And when you set out on this career path, did you envisage that this is where you'd be, or is this where you wanted to be, working for a leader in the field?
To be honest, I've tried in several times to get out of this profession because I thought it was just painting things on green, and it wasn't very true for me. And just finally, in the last 4 years, I have been able to really enjoy what, you know, sustainability can be a core, you know, and I think the sustainability profession is changing very, very rapidly, and we are, you know, the army of, you know, consultants and, you know, carbon managers and people who dedicate themselves to certificates is changing more to a much more strategic thing. Sure. And I think that, you know, I think people are enjoying much more than just being, you know, a person painting things and making companies look good.
Yeah, and we've explored some of your frustrations and gripes, but are there any sort of day-to-day challenges that you're grappling with now that, you know, you need some help with? You've got a big audience of 2 Degrees members here, and your peers who have answers to some of your problems. What are your big problems right now?
One of the problems I have is, you know, sustainability is such a long term, and still people, your colleagues, they're really delivering stuff day to day. Yeah. So how can you get them sometimes think, you know, further, and how can you get them to spend sometimes more about a longer term challenge that the, you know, fighting fires, that in many cases everybody's trying to fight a fire short term, but sometimes we miss that long-term challenge. So any help or any suggestions on dealing with that, it would be extremely helpful.
And what's the best piece of advice that you could give to your peers out there?
I think try to understand how your company is growing, how your company has a competitive advantage, and how can sustainability help that competitive advantage. I'll just give you an example. The supermarkets. What is this? You know, supermarket could have, you know, the main competitive advantage is that you have customers going there every week. Now, a supermarket is selling not only groceries like they used to be some time ago, and now they sell you mobile phone contracts, loans, etc., etc., etc. Can you sell something related to sustainability? So people are already selling green energy, people are selling insulation products, some of them are thinking about the Green Deal, people are thinking about renting. So by looking at your core competence, which is that customers go there every week, then you can expand to adjacent markets. Sure. I'll give you an example also in our company. We sell carpet, and then the carpet is mainly installed with glue. Right. So we came up with a sticker that substitutes the glue, so that the carpet doesn't stick to the subfloor, and then it's much easier to recycle. Now, what are we doing? We're expanding to an adjacent market by killing the glue market. Yeah. So the companies need to think in that way of just expanding to adjacent markets and cannibalizing the bad guys, the products and the things that have, you know, high impact.
And it is the kind of philosophy that you'll end up killing off those companies that don't get this agenda in the process. What will the landscape look like in 5 years? I mean, 10 years?
What Apple did to the music industry, what Apple did to the most of the newspaper industry, I think we need to find those disruptions that are going to disrupt the high impact sectors of today. And, you know, it's a really big, you know, it's a old business dilemma, and it's the, you know, old business rhetoric of surviving, and which business will be smarter to survive in this new scene.
Sure. Ramon, it's been fascinating. I'd love to sit here and chat all day. We've run out of time. So I'd like to say a big thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights and inviting us to spend some time with you today. So thank you for that.
Thanks a lot, Tom, for coming to our showroom and give us this opportunity.
Good stuff. Ramon's book is out now, published by Dow Sustainability. It's a great read, actually. I finished it last night. It's a short, snappy document, very practical and helpful. So do grab a copy. And I'd like to say a big thank you to you, our 2 Degrees audience. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for taking part in the conversation. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.